Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome to our coffee times together. Today I am here to talk about 5 of some of the last horror movies that I have been watching.
It's coffee time!
So today we are sitting down to talk about some of the last horror movies that I have watched. I have decided that, the movies that I watched that I really enjoyed, I will make a separate movie review, like a full, movie review out of them. The ones that didn't make it to even 1 star, I'm not gonna mention them, but I might make a worst horror watched in the last months at some point. So here are 5 of the last horror movies that I have watched lately that were kind of just meh or average. First we have Joshua from 2007, and I only gave this one a 2-star rating. This is a psychological thriller more than horror, about this kid that feels kind of neglected after his baby sister is born. Basically, he's used to being the center of attention of all of the adults that are around him in everyday life, and when his baby sister is born, he has trouble to accept that a lot of the attention has now shifted towards the new baby. This movie is also known as The Devil's Child in some countries, and it is a very slow-paced movie that it's kind of building up something that you're hoping it's gonna be the tits, and then when the end comes, it just fell flat for me. I don't know, I was missing a lot more of plot and a lot more of creepy moments, a lot of the horror, because this is kind of advertised as psychological horror, but there are not too many horror elements in this movie, for me at least, that I thought were creepy or whatever. There's a couple of moments, but it didn't feel like a real full-on horror story for me. There was just not enough. I thought the kind of movie was very slow-paced, but also they were not giving you enough plot elements to keep you kind of engaged and entertained with the movie, so that's why I only gave it 2 stars. Next we have Kill Theory from 2008, directed by Chris Moore. This is kind of like a thriller horror movie, kind of like a typical slasher, and we have here a group of friends that decide to go to this isolated house to spend kind of like the summer holidays, and while they're there, basically somebody comes and the slashing fest starts. It's very stereotypical, very tropey. The acting is not always the best, but I gave it 2.5 stars because I really loved the death scenes. I thought they were great. I thought they were bloody, they were gory, they were nice, and I really enjoyed the deaths. One of the things that I would give to this movie is that they took your typical kind of plot of a group of friends goes into the cabin in the woods in this scenario is a house, and then a stranger comes and starts slashing them, which was not the case here. So the group of friends go to the house, but then the stranger that comes basically tells them they have to kill each other, because by the end of the day there only has to be 1 survivor. Like the next morning, only 1 person has to make it out of that house alive, or else everybody else will be killed. So here's when the fun part starts because how far would this friendship go? Trust issues. It's kind of tropey, but at least I appreciated that they kind of gave a little bit of a twist of your typical slasher story. Next we have the Finnish film Lake Bodom from 2016, and it is not basically telling a true story, but it is inspired on the 1960s Lake Bodom murders that happened in real life. I had an issue with this movie. I gave it 3 stars because I really loved part of it. It's kind of a weird movie because it starts as something and towards the middle it just changed into a complete different movie. So for me, the beginning of the movie I didn't like. I thought it was predictable, tropey, nothing new, boring. But then we got to the second part of the movie and I'm like, I'm kind of enjoying this a lot. So it's kind of weird. I don't usually have this with movies, that I like only the second act and not the first act. Normally it's the other way around. and it's not like such a clean cut. Like in this movie, I can tell you exactly the scene where I was like, now you got me, now I'm engaged, now I want to see these. So it was really weird experience for me, but I think it's at least worth a watch for sure. So the story comes from the 1960s, like I said, when 3 teenagers were killed where they were camping, and their fourth one kind of survives, but he was very had a lot of wounds and was found nearly dead as well. And this is one of those murder cases that were never solved, and despite all the theories and everything around it, they never really found what happened or who killed these teenagers. So in this particular movie, we have a group of 4 teenagers that go together to the same school, and they decide to go to camp in Lake Bodom to try to kind of reenact what happened that night when those teenagers were killed for fun, to document it with a camera and stuff. And at the end, things turned for the worst for them. You know, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know what's gonna happen. And the movie does start very slow paced, and then it just starts to catch up. And when we pass kind of like the middle of the movie, that's when it really got super interesting for me, and it catched up so well, and it got more bloody and more disturbing and more unexpected. So I think this movie is one of those that really has a strong second act and ending. Next we have Wish Upon from 2017. I also gave this one 3 stars. Even though this is kind of your typical predictable PG-13 horror movie that teenagers love to watch when they want to have a horror night, I still thought it was a really interesting concept. I absolutely loved the death scenes. I thought they were great, they were disturbing, they were raw, and that's what I really appreciated about the movie. In the film, we follow a 17-year-old girl that is kind of ashamed of her dad's job and is kind of like having a rough time. And her dad gives her for her birthday a magical box with some Chinese characters, and because she is studying Chinese at school, she can recognize a couple of those characters, so she can kind of read 7 in wishes, and she realizes that this might be a wish box. So she decides to try, why not, and make a wish. And fair enough, the next day she realizes that her wish has come true. So she makes another wish, but at some point she realizes that for every wish that she's making, she's going to have to pay the price. And I really enjoyed the brutality of the deaths, to be honest, and I think the movie kept being entertaining and intriguing, even though it's your typical teenage predictable kind of film. If you like teenage horror movies, I think this is one of the best ones from the last years, because other ones have tried so hard and have failed so miserably, like Slender Man, that it was so boring. So this one is actually one of the ones that I really enjoyed. And the last one is Truth or Dare from 2018. I only gave this one 1 star. It's hard to describe this movie because the plot and everything was so messy and so like absurd. The thing with the movie is also that the trailer showed so much about the movie that you already had seen some of the things that were supposed to be surprising when you were watching the film, so you had already seen everything in the trailer. We're following here a group of teenagers that during spring break they decide to go together to Mexico to party. So while they're there in a bar, they find this guy called Carter, and he takes them to kind of like an abandoned church parking lot, and he kind of suggests to play Truth or Dare while they're drinking, and they start to play the game, and soon enough they realize that if you do not tell the truth, or if you fail to complete the dare, you know, there is a price to pay, and that is with your own life. One of the things that you get to see in the trailer that they used so much and overused in the movie to the point where it was no longer interesting anymore was this kind of face with the smile that they do when they're being possessed and they're about to die because they did not fulfill the truth or the dare. So this is used so much that it's no longer creepy. I don't know, like they didn't look for many resources to keep the movie interesting. It's kind of like a repeat all the time of the same thing, trying to get away from this curse, and the same people making the same faces. Like, it just lacked originality everywhere. And also, like, the end was super dumb. And no, like, I had a feeling I was not gonna love this movie, but I still wanted to give it a try, to see what they did with it. Also because I don't mind Lucy Hale or anything, but I feel like she's been in a bunch of bad movies, sadly. Yeah, I know the director from Truth or Dare has done Fantasy Island, and I've also heard it's not good. I've also heard it's not so much horror, but more kind of like a thriller thing. I would still like to give it a try when I can see it for free. But I'm not impressed with his movie Truth or Dare. So these were 5 of the last horror movies that I have been watching lately. Let me know down below your thoughts on the movies. Let's comment on them. And before you leave, please remember to give the video a big thumbs up for support. And if you want to follow me on other social media, the links as always are down below. And I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!